We hit the live button early because there is literally no stopping us. Welcome to 21st Century Saints, our podcast and live stream series for members and those adjacent to or affiliated with or hang around the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints here in the United Kingdom and around the world. I'm grumpy tonight. I'm in a bad mood, but the kinds of which can only be alleviated by the plastic heroine of the summer. Barbie, we're here to talk about some things that Barbie has brought up for us. Now, before we begin, as you'll know from the title of the episode, if you can see, if you're watching this episode, we don't have Ruth with us tonight. Ruth is deservedly having a night off and a little bit of a celebration for being absolutely bloody wonderful. So so don't come back, Ruth, tonight. Come back next time and just knock yourself out having a party. We wish we were with you. But you've got me, your host, Jane Christie, and you've also got the wonderful Queen Sara Elizabeth Delaney. You want to say hey, Sara?
Hello, everyone. It's good to be here tonight, and it's going to be really interesting discussing Barbie and all the incredible links between Barbie and Mormonism. Barbie, Mormonism, who'd have thought it? But believe me, they're there.
This is going to be Jane therapy tonight because I'm in a bad mood.
Okay.
And you see, okay.
Jane.
So yeah, it will all come tumbling out. I'm breaking a cardinal rule with this tonight because we do not give spoiler alerts. We do not talk about movies that and potentially someone stumbling across it could see. So let me just say, if you don't want to have the movie spoiled for you, please don't watch. That would be wonderful. But if you have, or if you don't care, then come and sit down and have a chat because we're going to tell you why you should care about Barbie. And we're going to start off with this. I think women of Sara and our generations, as adults, I had a bit of a grudge against Barbie. She kind of, I found her a little bit, everything that I felt like were unrealistic expectations and ideals. Did your kids have Barbies?
Do you know, my kids weren't into Barbies. They didn't. I've seen maybe one of my kids had Barbies. The others weren't really into them. A couple of grandkids have had Barbies.
Do you like her? Do you like Barbie?
Well, up until this movie, no, I didn't. This movie completely changed my view of Barbie. I didn't like Barbie one little bit because all I saw her as was this skinny, high maintenance figure of perfection of what girls and women were supposed to look like. Like, oh, let's wear all these lovely clothes and these high heels and this kind of dress that's like this, and I'll lie around on a sunbed all day and I'll look pretty and I'll look beautiful. And I just had this image that I didn't like Barbie. Barbie wasn't what I ever wanted my life to be like. I didn't want my kids' lives to be like Barbie. So I didn't like Barbie. I really didn't like Barbie. But this movie turned everything on its head with Barbie. And I can just sum up how this movie turned it on its head for me, Jane.
Yeah, well, I mean, before you jump into that, I mean, I think I did kind of want to be Barbie a little bit. I think I saw an image of, especially as you're a kid and you're growing up, I didn't have a mother figure, so Barbie has boobs. Oh my goodness, it was these things that are terribly fascinating to kids developmentally, so I only have very, very kind of rugby playing boys in our home, and so we didn't have dolls. We did. We had Action Man. The boys had Action Man.
Yes, that is a boy's doll. It is a doll.
Who is a doll? Who is for Americans that would be G.I. Joe.
I think it
still exist. I don't know, but they So there were dolls, but and I played with baby dolls.
So I think interesting. I think interestingly for me, one of the reasons why Barbie just never hit the spot with me was even as a child, as a teenager growing up, I bypassed the whole teenage girl bit about makeup, hair and clothes. It kind of passed me by somewhere over there somewhere. I never quite engaged in that part of teenage girl life because it never remotely appealed to me.
Mm.
So I was kind of always a little bit apart from a lot of teenage girls because they all love the sort of the makeup, the clothes, the hair, the this, the that. And I'm just like, it's so boring. I'm really not interested. So I always kind of found other kids, usually lads, other things to go and hang out and do. Because it just bypassed me in real life, never mind bypassing me in recreating it in a doll.
Well, here's the scary thing that I realised that we use Barbie as a bit of an insult, meaning a certain type of girl or woman, or even trans male. The sort of Barbie, even trans women. We have this Barbie image that if someone who has any of those stereotypical looks walked into Relief Society, I mean, I think I would feel that kind of envious, maybe. I want to say I'm higher, I'm a higher person than that, but if I've got that kind of bias against a doll, and they do this in the women representing the idea of womanhood, then what does that say? So yeah, I think I definitely had some kind of bias that was kind of pushing back a little bit.
I think for me, from the film, just thinking about the creator of Barbie, Ruth, when the creator is talking to Barbie and she's saying, I don't get to decide who you are, Barbie. You decide who you are. Even though she created Barbie, she's like, okay, I might have created you, I might have made you, but I don't get to decide who you are. And there's a lot about us as mothers in that, isn't there? We might have created and given birth and raised our children, but we don't get to decide who they are. We don't get to decide what they are.
Let's start this, what you're saying there. Let's start at the beginning of the movie, because I actually think Barbie, during the movie, up until sort of she has these struggles, has a very, very clear idea. I'm stereotypical Barbie. And whatever that means. And every other Barbie has an assigned role. So what we see is the sort of Barbie consumer. So at the start of the movie, I thought this is going to be super weird. You've got all of these sort of almost pioneer style, like American 50s. They look like little Mormon kids, little Mormon girls. And they're playing with their dolls. And they're not, they're okay. They're not distressed or anything, but yeah, there aren't a lot of options for them. And then Barbie comes along and they start smashing up these dolls. Now, this must, I think, be quite disturbing for some people who are sort of thinking, oh, we're going to hear this Barbie feminism stuff. And here we have little girls smashing up babies, their dolls, but
to play with other dolls.
Right. It's kind of jarring. Yeah, I think that just played to a lot of sort of fears. What does that mean? You're not going to want to be mothers. You're going to be scary, horrible, frightening people, and actually they're little girls who just now suddenly have options.
And that's the interesting bit of Barbie, isn't it? Because at one point, little girls had baby dolls that had sort of baby bottles and beds to sleep in and cots and clothes and all the things that baby dolls have. Then they were smashed, thrown out the window, gone. And then all of a sudden there's this doll called Barbie who's suddenly got an airline pilot's uniform and a briefcase and
she's standing at first in her bathing suit. She's standing with a figure.
And that's the Barbie I don't like. That's the Barbie I can't connect with, because that's the Barbie.
That's, I think, why you did that.
And that's the Barbie that's all about this kind of perfectionism of looks and body and image. And that's the Barbie that I don't connect with anywhere. I just think, what's that about?
And yet, it's shown it against this backdrop of, you're being trained for motherhood. You can play at motherhood, and it is literally training you to do it. We see these little kids ironing their dolls' clothes and things to just an image And it's just, and immediately I'm sort of like you feeling this, oh my goodness, this cliche of womanhood. How can you rescue this? And then we go to Barbie Land, and my feeling was going to be, oh, it's sort of plastic, too good to be true, perfect life. And we do see that. But it's kind of wonderful. It's actually really lovely.
Well, I'm going to tell you my experience when I watched this film then. I watched Barbie twice at the cinema. The first time I went with a couple of friends to watch Barbie, and I sat there looking at all this pink Barbie, plastic pink Barbie world, and I actually couldn't get my head past that. Mm-hmm. And I struggled because all I got in my head was this Barbie with a swimming costume that all these kids had abandoned their toys and their dolls for, and they'd gone running after this Barbie in a swimming costume that was giving them the exact opposite of how they were dressed and how they were clothed and how they were living. And they'd got this suddenly, instead of wearing the clothes that they were wearing, they'd got this beautiful, glamorous Barbie that they were all sort of hankering after and running after and wanting to have. Then you get all these bright pink plastic cars and houses and incredibly cheerful, waking up in the morning and everything's perfection and everybody's smiling and everything's wonderful. And I just thought, don't lie, this is weird.
It was a weirdness for you.
It was weird. There was a weirdness. And anyway, so I watched the film, and that was it. At the end of it, I just thought, I don't really know what I think of that. And I sort of pondered it a little bit. And then a couple of days later, one of my grandchildren said, can we go to the cinema and watch Barbie? So I went to see the cinema at the Barbie with a 16-year-old. And it was a really completely different experience because I was looking at it from her perspective and thinking, what would I like her to understand about Barbie? And so I kind of said to her, what are you making of the patriarchy? And I thought, I want to have that discussion. And it suddenly opened up this discussion about the Barbies were all in charge. I said, well, how do you think the Kens are feeling? And where are the Kens if the Barbies are all in charge? So we were having a really good discussion around those issues. And suddenly the movie took on a whole new meaning to me and it came to life. And then afterwards, when I took her home, a 17-year-old brother was there, and he is an actor, so he's engaged in film and theatre all the time. And I said, we've been to see Barbie. And he said, isn't it amazing? He said, the discourse, the narrative, he said, it's an incredible film. And I just thought that was just such a powerful thing for a 17-year-old boy who's very into narrative, discourse, theatre, screen, everything. For him to be saying, he said, it's amazing how they explain patriarchy and how they show people growing and developing and rejecting patriarchy and then reclaiming patriarchy. He said, I thought it was incredible.
You see, I have, I guess, still a little, so I don't know how many times at this point I've watched Barbie, because my son, when he watches a film, we are there to watch it repeatedly for the whole of the rest of the day, and then all of the months and weeks following. So
I do feel your pain.
Every Monday when I would be messaging Sara to say, oh, we're at Barbie again, send prayers, and sometimes some of the movies are better than others. This was okay, but I have a lot of respect for the conversations that grew out of this. I feel it's bubblegum feminism. It's an introduction to what feminism can look like, but part of the reason why I feel like not pushing back, because it does its job okay. But when we've disengaged from all of the things or we're trying to disengage from elevation, emotion, and this manipulation of our feelings, and even feminism when it's weaponized or made to be sort of, something that is for consumers, we know all the tricks. So I didn't have the reaction to it that women and girls and men and boys worldwide and the trans community, I'll come back to that later, but they were having this really powerful reaction to it. Now, the more I've watched it again just last night, funnily enough, and I could recognize the feelings, but I just don't like being manipulated, and that's the Hollywood of it. The actual, it did a good job.
You see, but if you think about how that film okay, once you move on from the girls and the dolls and the glamorous Barbie, and then
take us into Barbie world. Yeah.
Right, and then you go into Barbie world, and Barbie wakes up in the morning in her Barbie bed.
Yeah, she
That's
wakes up and she's
and everything is like she's set for a fantastic day. Barbie's woken up knowing that her world is how she wants her world to be. She hasn't woken up wondering, what's this day going to look like for me? She's woken up with the confidence and a surety that I'm in control here. I'm going to make the decisions about what goes on with my day here. And you see that from the minute she wakes up in the morning and stretches and gets out of her oyster-shaped bed. Actually, the world is an oyster. The world is even an oyster because she even sleeps in it. She gets out of bed. She's going about her daily business. And what you're actually seeing there is Barbie living a perfectionism. And then that's when you start thinking, okay, Barbie's living this wonderful world of perfectionism. And then you see Ken, whose day is made because Barbie just looks at him and it's made his day for him. And you just kind of think, okay, so and then what I was thinking was what you're actually seeing with all these Barbies here that have got all this wonderful thing going on is this toxic perfectionism. And then when you link that to church, but if you link that to church, this toxic perfectionism that we see around, you can't just be ordinary. You've got to be incredible. You've got to be amazing. You've got to be something. You can't just be this ordinary person that's really content to just not do anything outstanding, not do anything amazing, but just really content to have an ordinary, everyday life.
I don't actually see as much toxic perfectionism obviously at this stage, because what I'm focusing on is the nostalgia, and I'm living in this the way it was, the way it's always going to be, the sort of lack of progress. None of the Barbies are mean. They are wonderful. They all look different. We have all of these shapes and sizes, the possibilities, the careers, the roles. But what does become apparent in Barbie Land is that people are being overlooked. And so we are in this place of privilege and nostalgia. And I mean, I'm seeing Barbie's car and thinking, I remember really wanting to have that. I remember, I remember these adverts, and I want to live in Barbie Land because they're also supportive. Have you seen the president? Have you seen all of these women who are just building and creating, and there are some of the Barbies are trans. Some of the Barbies are wonderful trans women, and so it looks initially like nobody's being overlooked until we see that people are being overlooked. So what have they done? Sara, one of your favorite lines in the movie, the Nobel Prize. Oh no, wait! Before we get to the Nobel Prize, can I just recreate this moment for Sara? So when Barbie was getting ready this morning and she has her outfit all ready to go, can you show us your outfit, Barbie? Sara, can you give us a? We have
21st Century Saints t-shirts.
Yeah.
I think you all need to get one. One because we need to start a craze here of everybody wearing 21st Century Saints t-shirts. They're good. They're comfy. They're soft. They're gorgeous to wear.
They are
good. You need one.
We feel very fancy and wonderful. Nemo the Mormon also, he has merch over on his, if you look on his YouTube page, but we also have merch if you look on our website, and your Brit Avengers merch. So yeah, if you want to have your like Barbie Land, your wardrobe full of Brit Avengers, 21st Century Saints, even Nemo merch, you know where to look.
There's lots and lots of it there.
Right. So that when Sara, you can you imagine someone presents you with your Nobel Peace Prize, or here is your prize for journalism, and you say,
I deserve that. That was my favourite line. That's one of my favourite lines in the movie. And the reason that was one of my favourite lines in the movie was that Barbie literally accepted the prize that was put into her hands. And there was none of this self-deprecation, none of this, oh, thank you for my family. I'm so grateful that Heavenly Father made this possible. I'm so grateful that my prayers have been answered. I'm so grateful my family has supported me to achieve this wonderful thing. And I didn't ever think I'd be able to do this. And isn't it incredible? She just smiled at everyone in the room with complete confidence and complete self-belief and said, in recognition that she knew how hard she'd worked, she knew that she'd earned it, she knew she'd done a really good job.
She said, I worked so hard, I deserve this.
And she could publicly declare that. And she said, I deserve this. And then a couple of the other Barbies looked at her and smiled and said, yes, because they knew she deserved it. We don't do that as women. We don't stand there as women and say, I deserve this. We don't even do it about things we do deserve in normal everyday life, like being happy, content, feeling good about ourselves, making our own decisions. We don't even do it about that because we have a plan that has been laid out for us. And this is the plan, and we need to move through the plan. And as soon as we step aside and we're not moving through that plan, then actually, oh, that's kind of quite not right, is it? That's not quite right, is it?
So when Sara and Jane and Ruth in Barbie Land, how often, girl, we're still so far from being there yet too, because we still do this. How often do we say, it's not that we're being really prideful, I don't want to come across like I'm trying to say that, look at this, but and then we go on to make a point about, maybe an experience that we've had or a point that we're trying to make, but we don't want to be seen to be prideful or look at us or congratulations to us.
Right. And even when people offer that, as women, we're not particularly good at accepting it. We're not brilliant at women we're better at women as accepting it when people try to put us down and knock us. We're better at kind of thinking, But actually,
shall I say for the audience, like, because I've never said this online before, but I've said it to you. Shall I say if we got our prize for journalism or our award for being a lovely human being,
and we're gonna get award for being lovely human beings.
Yeah, because they give them out all the time. Here's your awards. Here's your certificate for being fabulous. Yeah,
brilliant. Okay, that's good. That's cool.
Which, can I say, I give to my son all the time. We make these at home. We will make a certificate for being wonderful. Yes. Anyway, no, if that were to happen, what have I said would happen? Well, can you come up to the stage, 21st Century Saints?
But then there would be a rush of other people rushing up in front of us, elbowing us out of the way and saying, thank you, I'll have that.
I worked so hard for this.
Thank you, that's mine. I would be like, who are you? Who are you? Oh, yes, right, okay. Absolutely.
We may have seen a little bit of that once or twice. We just a couple of times.
But isn't it interesting that we have seen that, and it's a very feminine world in which we see that, because it doesn't happen in a man's world. I actually think that if you had a couple of men that went up to collect an award for something, for being fabulous human beings or whatever, and they went up to collect their award, the other men would be thinking, well done, mate, good on you, nice job. And all the women would be sitting there thinking, oh, yeah, okay. But there wouldn't be this, hang on a minute.
Come join us for some Jane therapy here.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean, please don't think that, like, I am going to spill my guts and you can all therapize me. This isn't good advice I'm giving. This is me. This is me just ranting. So not only do we see, I've explained what we have seen several times, just a couple, dozen. And the other thing that happens is, so you said that what the response to Barbie's, her speech, and all of the other Barbies are congratulating her, and it's well done.
But they're not claiming credit. They're not claiming credit. They're not saying,
well, see, that's one element of it.
Didn't really do that, did you?
Yeah, that's one element of it. We don't really believe this until we see the evidence from a man who has signed it and has spoken about it and published it many times in the press. And then it's 10 years down the line because, of course, everybody's, it's all going to change anyway. This is just, I don't know what's happening, but it's certainly you ladies, you ladies. Yeah. Stop calling us ladies. Anyway, the other thing that happens is that, so think about Nobel Prize Barbie for a moment, because since she's being our stereotype. What happens in the real world is you don't get a lot of people saying, well, no, that's not true. You do. You get all of the supportive people, all of the people who are there for you, all of the people who are there for a campaign or for a conversation, who do what the Barbies do. Yeah, you can see the hard work, you can see the everything that's going into it. It doesn't need justified, because Barbie doesn't need to explain herself. I worked so hard. I did this. What you don't see is people who are saying, yeah, but if Barbie had have done it this little bit differently, she would have had even better results. Or she did get that, but actually her approach isn't. And so you don't then see a ton of essays, books, and unsolicited advice on how to do it, to do it my way, but better. Because Barbie's way is never going to be sufficient for those people.
And there was that powerful speech from, was it Gloria in the movie? I can't remember. There was this powerful speech in the movie where somebody said, but Barbie must be thin but not too thin, and healthy but not too healthy, and Barbie must lead but not be seen to be bossy, and not be seen to take control. And it's a bit like, sometimes people say to us, we're either too Mormon or we're not Mormon enough.
All the time.
And we're either too pushy with the church or we're not pushy enough.
Yeah.
And it's like and I think you've said it many a time, and we've both said it, is we just can't be what all the different people want us to be. And I mean, I was joking the other night, wasn't I, saying that I'm actually going to set up a Facebook page called Disappointed by Jane, just for people to sign up, all these people that like to vote, to speak about their disappointment because you haven't quite done it the way you should. But I think that's so intrinsic to what we see in Barbie. And the thing for me is, you can liken it to everything we see as women growing up in the church, because you're taught this pattern of behaviour. You're taught this all the way through life, and there's this message that unless you've got a man at your side, you're not actually going to make the celestial kingdom anyway. So you've got to have a man to be perfected and to be the best you can be, and you can't do that without. So actually, you've got to make sure you get hold of this man, because you can't make it on your own. And what we see in Barbie world is that Barbies are making it on their own, and they own houses, and they own cars, and they own jet planes, and they own everything else under the sun.
Yeah.
And they own it in their own right. Whereas we are given the message all the way through that we can't actually achieve or do anything, or at least nothing that is right, and nothing that we should be achieving and doing, unless we've got a man at our side.
Sara, tell me something.
And that's a bit.
This is definitely an insight into these moments that we have sort of behind the scenes, where when all of the presentations and so many podcasts we do, especially if it's something where there's going to be a new audience, I tend to start off by pointing out that this is unpolished. I am someone who's doing this from her bedroom. My kids could walk in, my dog could go crazy. We're doing the same thing, with the kitchen. Yes, it might not be so perfect. And we lay that out so often, because actually, although I own this and this works for me, there can be, and we got it this whenever we very first, in the first podcast episodes, people telling us how to do it better. And we're kind of like, well, we can't do, we're not going to be in a studio. We were asked for timestamps in the first week. Can you do timestamps? No, I bloody well can't. No, I could, but
we're not. We're not.
feel free to volunteer. Anybody who wants to really needs timestamps, volunteer. Alana with backache, Alana with real illness is moving too much because her back's hurting, but she needs to be more still. But the audio or the internet, or there's something that's not right. Now it's difficult because you're going on YouTube and people have got higher expectations than ever before. But we are a podcast who are going to have kitchen noise. We are a podcast who are literally could be needed at any moment. And you can even see like Sara is quite aware of, becomes hyper aware of any background noise, which is actually like, you're doing this amazing thing and giving us this time, and we're like, oh my goodness, there's noise, and our audience might get a bit annoyed. And
it's really interesting, isn't it? Because before we went live tonight, I said to you, for some reason the internet in my part of the house isn't working. I need to go into the kind of part of the house that's inhabited by the rest of my family. And that means I need to go and sit in the kitchen, and Harry's going to be home any minute now from the gym, and he's going to come diving in this kitchen, starving, hungry. And Phoebe and Sarah, they're all going to be in and out of the kitchen. The dog's going to want to go in the garden. All sorts of things are going to be happening. And I was saying to you, Jane, this is going to be really difficult, but I've got a choice of an internet signal that's going to go like that all night, or a reasonably good internet signal, but real life going on around me. And I think we have always said, and just for 1 second, and this isn't about our safeguarding stuff tonight, but just for 1 second, because everything's always about safeguarding.
It always comes back.
Always does. But when we started our safeguarding work, one of the things that we were really clear that we said to lawyers, we said to priesthood leaders, we said to other professionals that we co-worked with, we said to everyone across the board that we interacted with, we are not professionals and we are not trying to be. We are trying to be just what we are, which is two women with a deep commitment and a deep passion, doing the best we can with what we have available to us. And
that the other thing that does is what we needed it to, what I need this. I'm doing this podcast because it was a need for me. It's become other things now, but it means that we can bring that rawness of our lives to, okay, I don't have to filter. I don't have to, do the stage makeup. If I'm makeup free because it's been a busy day. I want to be able to bring everything that I want to be able to put out there if I have to. So I have rage cried in the kitchen. I have gone live at 2 a.m. because that this is, I want you to see what faith crisis looks like. I want you to see what struggling with this looks like, and come and see this. I'll invite you into this space. My bed is over there where I haven't moved for 6 weeks when I had the worst depression of all time. And so you're coming into my life, and I will happily tell you, we'll do our best, but there's also things that will not work for you, and tough, because
yes, 100%. And sorry, do you know what is just so interesting about this is, you don't see any sense of the Barbies while they're in Barbie world and Barbie land. You don't see any sense of, at least the first part of the movie. Second part different. The first part, you don't see them suffering with low confidence and low self-esteem and low self-belief. And I remember a couple of weeks ago, I was looking after my grandchildren, and you and I were having one of our many conversations during the day about goodness knows what. And Ollie, who's 3 years old, was kind of coming up and wanting to say hello. And you said to him, how did you get to be so wonderful? Have you practiced being wonderful? Are you wonderful? And he went, yes, with absolute complete belief that, I am pretty wonderful. I'm pretty awesome. Everybody loves me. And I'll tell you that, I am wonderful and I am brilliant and I'm really good at this and I'm really good at that. And that's the sense that you get with those Barbies. They were still in that stage where society hadn't attacked them and dragged all of that goodness away from them, like the Dementors in Harry Potter hadn't come and dragged the goodness out of them.
And they haven't been able to attack them. And how
and that's what it's about.
You could be more wonderful You know,
And
yeah, of
that's what
course
it's
you're
about.
wonderful. God loves you.
But
we
that's
love
what it's
you.
about. Nobody told them.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody said to these Barbies, look, Barbie, in your Barbie world with your oyster bed and your car outside and your Ken playing at beach and your everything else over there. Nobody said to those Barbies, you can't do it. You're not good enough. You don't quite match up to the mark. And because they weren't given that message, they were able to. And that's the key bit for me of all of this with this Barbie. They were able to be exceptional because they were allowed to be who they were. They didn't have to fit a mold.
So I also want to talk about, again, it's therapizing myself. So thank you, audience, for being patient with me. But the other thing those Barbies weren't doing was dumbing down for each other. Now, I don't want to. I don't want to suggest that and I'm going to bring Ken into this in a moment.
Yeah.
But I don't want to suggest that, like, because we speak at a level that is real. It's where we are. Sometimes our thoughts are coming thick and fast. Some things are just. I don't want to have to spell everything out and go back to the beginning and give people a narrative of which people tend to want. If I was writing in it, like Peter Bleakley, school teacher, will point out, you need to tell people what you're going to say, then you say it, then you tell them what you've said. I don't have time. I don't have patience. I'm going to speak to you like you're not stupid, which is when Peter will jump in and say, yeah, but, when we're talking to these bishops, they are stupid. And we defend this and we're like, no, but you know what? People will get it. If people are willing to do the work, and and I'm going to refer to we are going to be releasing the full audio of the training workshop that we did the other day. And one of the things we'd sort of been thinking about is, do we need to go back in and do some explanatory stuff about how these speakers that we involve take us right through to the end. That we'd scheduled a sort of 3-hour long workshop, that in that last sort of hour, maybe 40 minutes of the workshop, that's when we do all of the, okay, here's what you have to do if you want to get safeguarding in your area. And we are very explicitly calling out people who are unwilling to do the work, who are unwilling to listen to other views, Mormons who think that it's okay if you're ex-Mormon, you have nothing to contribute, ex-Mormons who just want to, would rather see everyone pitch up for a fight and take to the streets and grab your pitchforks and torches and protest and show up outside Temple Square. We were speaking about all of those different levels of engagement and how necessary they are, and that if you have all of this baggage that you need to get through, then there's no point in you thinking that you can advocate for children, because you have too many biases to overcome, and you aren't going to be able to work with the people that you have to work with and build the relationships that you have to build in order for you to be able to really do any effective work in this space. And the speakers that we had were sort of all asking you to do the work on some level to be able to work in that space. So we had really carefully planned what that would look like. And so we did give thought to, do we need to maybe go back and make that narrative more explicit? And I'm really resistant to it.
I know, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because we have been asked for copies of that by various professional groups that are non-Mormon, but they're professional groups, and they said we'd really like to have a copy of that because we want to use it for this purpose or whatever. And we're like, okay, are they going to make sense of it when they've got no Mormon background whatsoever?
And possibly not.
Do we need to put some explanation there, or do we just leave it to speak for itself? And I think that's still something.
I will.
Well, I don't know. I'm still not convinced.
Well,
I'm not convinced.
It's not going to hurt anyway. Put it that way.
But we can see. Yeah. But I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because you did see in Barbie World, things got into a fight at the very end, which is interesting. But I know one of the things that you were just picking up on is our safeguarding campaign has never been about wanting to cause the church to crash and burn or cause the church to go and sort of punch the church in the throat. It's never been about that.
Right.
It's been about children and making a difference to children and vulnerable adults.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying there isn't a time to have that level of rage and anger, and people can feel and have that level of rage and anger. But if you want to bring it into making changes for safeguarding, that won't work. You have to be able to have those conversations with a smile on your face when you know the person you're talking to is not really being completely honest with you, but you've got a big smile on your face and you're having that conversation and thinking, I might like to punch you in the throat, but actually that's okay. Mr. Very important, high profile, high senior church leader, I will smile sweetly and I will be ever so respectful because I really want you to understand the importance of why I'm telling you this matters. Yeah, and that's what
you're right.
And I just keep getting all that from Barbie because the way Barbie had been groomed into success for her life. Yes. Women in the church have not been groomed into success that is independent of the church or a husband. Whereas the Barbies had been groomed to be successful, autonomous, authentic women in their own right.
So then we see fairly early on in the movie in Barbie Land, what we would call a safeguarding concern. There's an injury.
So Ken gets hurt.
Ken is not groomed for that kind of success. He wants Barbie's attention. He needs Barbie's attention. That's what he is built for. And he has an injury. Now, what is wonderful is how that was treated. And so, we're talking about how, I think there is space for if you are angry and want to see the church burn down in this. Of course there is.
Fine, yeah. Absolutely. However, there's space for that.
If you're talking about being sort of involved in efforts to coordinate and work with other people, then you're going to have to be aware that they also have their biases and how you can work together so that when someone is in pain, right? So Ken's in pain. Had a terrible accident and he's extremely upset.
But isn't it powerful what he says? My job is beach. And what does Barbie say?
What does Barbie say?
You do a great job.
So when the paramedics come, and oh my goodness, I loved that ambulance. I wanted that ambulance whenever the paramedics, paramedic Barbie was on point. And they, even though there is no injury, they take him seriously.
Yeah.
They give it x-rays. He has his checks. He's absolutely fine. And what he needed was a little bit of emotional support, and so they told him that he's wonderful, and they, he got invited to the party, and he was feeling great after that.
Yeah.
But they took him seriously, and I think that's the thing. Even what I would have wanted to do as the non-Barbie Land Barbie, I would have been saying, get a grip. I don't have time to pander to your upset. Whatever it is that you really need from me right now, I'm far too busy to give you. But which do that.
But which would have got Ken back on his feet more quickly? Because I would have done what I'd have done what you'd done. I'd been thinking, get over it.
Come on.
I'd have been like, whatever, just get over it.
Yeah.
But actually, that would not have got Ken back on his seat because Ken would have then been able to say, but it really does hurt. It really is hard to move. And because he'd have been needing to kind of say, just take me seriously. Because that's what people in pain do. That's what people in pain do. If they're not heard and they're not validated, that's what they do.
Right.
But because Ken was given that care, that attention, he was made to feel special, he was made to feel that he mattered, Ken was actually able to get back on with his life before the end of the day. And I mean, they didn't even laugh at his ridiculous statement about my job is beach. How can a job be beach? But nobody even kind of.
Yeah, there wasn't.
They were just like, they were like, okay, Ken, your job is beach. Let's just sort you out.
Yeah.
There were no judgments, no criticism, no judgment. He fell.
Yes.
He fell. But he wasn't judged because he fell. It was like, how can we get you back up on your feet again?
Exactly. I love that.
And do we do that? Do we do that well enough as as Latter-day Saints, do you think? Do we help one another back on our feet as easily and as readily as would be healthy? I'm just mindful at the moment of your experience where your entire ward has disappeared into... I mean, they might have been taken up to be with the City of Enoch for all we know, because they've so completely disappeared, your ward. But
well, to be fair, the people in some of the people in my ward are, as fabulous as they've always been. But I think it's when you need the church to church, when you need beach to beach.
I'm probably
your bishop.
And I might be being a bit unfair because I'm angry at how your bishopric and yours.
Because yes, please join me in my
ditched you. I'm angry with them for that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, screw you guys.
I'm angry. I might come up there and go to church one Sunday and have a word.
Well, that will lead into a whole another story for another episode. Tell me about your thoughts on the one of the things that I thought was brilliant was during the party. So after the party, Barbie's going to go and party with the girls because every night's girls' night. Ken wants to know if he can come in.
I know. Yeah.
Can he stay over?
And Barbie's like, no, Ken, you can't, because this is my home and this is what I do. And every night is girls' night, and off you go, Ken. I'm with my girls. And I'm having a good time. And she doesn't express any guilt. She's not.
Yeah.
Oh, what have I done? Have I just upset him? Or maybe I shouldn't.
She doesn't owe him that.
And she doesn't go back into her group of girlfriends and just say, I think I might have really upset Ken. Do you think I should have said that? I don't know whether I should have done that. Oh, do you think I better go and find Ken and go running after him and talk to him? Barbie's just like, you know what, Ken? I said no. Knows what I meant. Off you go. You go do your thing. I'm going to do my thing. Life to lead, places to go, things to do. Off you go, Ken.
She said, I don't want you to.
I know. And she didn't have... But do you know what the best bit of I don't want you to? Do you know the best bit of that? She didn't have to explain why she didn't want him to.
That was it. That was the thing.
That was the best bit. She didn't sit there and say, I don't want you to because I've got a lot of work to do. I don't want you to because I'm extremely tired. I don't want you to because I don't feel well. She didn't owe him an explanation of how she intended to live her life that evening and that night, because she was an autonomous, intelligent woman that can make her own decisions on how she intended to live her life in that moment. And that didn't include Ken at that moment. And she could confidently and assertively say, not tonight, Ken. So he probably went and did beach and all the rest of it. But Barbie got on with...
Ken is sad. Ken has his own things.
But Barbie got on with being Barbie, didn't she?
Yeah.
But you still got this... I mean, so what were the key messages that were coming through there? What do we learn from that scene?
So not to, even when sort of, that physical expectation of there's a kiss, there was a sort of physical tension and we're reaching forward and it's going to happen. And she doesn't move back. She just, this is happening in his world, not hers. Barbie hasn't learned to be frightened of Ken.
Right. Now, why is that? Why do you think Barbie hasn't learned to be frightened of Ken?
Because she hasn't experienced the real world yet. That's still to come, and she will. We'll see that.
But what is it when she experiences that real world? It's what she sees in that world, because she has no concept that men can be dangerous at this point.
Well, before we get to the real world,
she's no concept of this at this moment in time. Barbie has no concept there is anything to potentially be scared about.
Exactly,
because Barbie's in control. Barbie's got it sorted,
right? And now those are some of the attitudes that we talk about today, because if you're not aware of what potential risks may be in the real world, Barbie would have been vulnerable to that. But in this world, Barbie can say no, and she doesn't have to explain herself. All of those things that we've had to do, she hasn't had to learn to keep more. What we would have done: call a girl out to be with you, call your pals out, or make sure that you're in a.
Because what Barbie has never experienced at this moment in time, Barbie has never experienced anybody trying to put her back in her box. Nobody has actually said to Barbie, look, that's your box over there. Can you go and get back in it, please, and stay there? Nobody's ever told Barbie that. Barbie doesn't know she's got a box. I mean, that's the bit. Barbie doesn't even know she has a box. And Barbie doesn't need anyone's permission. And I think that for me is a really, really big bit about this for women. A really big bit. The Barbies didn't need anyone's permission to live how they were living. They didn't need a man or a priesthood holder or a professional or Uncle Tom Cobley or anyone else to come along and give them permission.
But then something happened. So during the party, she did say something that her community wasn't prepared for. Does anybody ever think about death? And that was no. So when Barbie's sort of waking up and things are starting to go wrong for her, it began with those thoughts. It begins with what I think we would maybe define as mental health issues. Barbie's feeling a sense of unease and with herself. She has anxieties and worries that end up becoming related to sort of the physical manifestations of things not all being well. So we now get to go and meet Weird Barbie. It would have been really lovely if the other Barbies were in a place where they could have said, it's okay, Barbie, you know, they're horrified too, because no, we can't have flat feet. This is awful. And
the flat feet.
But also, they did signpost her to someone who's more of an expert. They didn't try to fix it. So, I mean, there's good stuff there.
But how interesting that expert wasn't an everyday part of all of the Barbies' lives. This expert was almost on the edge of town, really, weren't they?
Oh, she's cringy, yeah.
And actually, do we see that around our faith community sometimes? The experts are a little bit on the edge.
Love that.
You know, what was it? I mean, I know it was many, many years ago, but Boyd K. Packer said, didn't he, the enemies of this church are the feminists, the academics, the gays. So actually,
yeah.
We've got all that going on as well, haven't we, in this?
We have seen every Barbie.
Weird Barbie is kind of so different to the others because things have happened to her, and that's the bit. Things have happened to her in life, which I think is worth a bit of discussion. How did Barbie end up? How did Barbie go from that glamorous, gorgeous Barbie in a swimsuit at the very, very beginning, looking beautiful, looking stunning, with all the girls kind of absolutely in awe of how incredible she was, to the extent they smashed everything they played with all their life just to be like her.
I love it.
And then you end up with Weird Barbie.
Yes.
And how does somebody become Weird Barbie? Because I think in the understanding that, there's a sense of how do we become from the 3-year-old grandson who can say to you, yeah, I am wonderful, to the women that are saying, I feel so broken.
So I think that she's perceived by the other Barbies that she was once the most beautiful of all the Barbies. And so clearly she isn't perceived by the other Barbies as beautiful at the moment, which is strange when you have all of these Barbies who are physically different. We have Barbies with disabilities. We have Barbies of all different shapes and sizes. It looks like a very inclusive society, but we have the Kens are being overlooked, and we've also got Weird Barbie. Now, I love that our Facebook feeds are full of people who are identifying through that movie. I am Weird Barbie. She's my Barbie. I am her. And I had a Weird Barbie. I have to say, I said I didn't have a Barbie. A friend gave me a Barbie. I did have a Weird Barbie.
If I'd had a Barbie, it would have had to have been Weird Barbie. And I think my style of playing with Barbie would have been such that she would have ended up as a Weird Barbie.
Because she becomes weird because you play with her too hard.
Yeah.
Now, when the mother in the story comes back from I'm jumping ahead to when she meets Weird Barbie, she is so excited to see Weird Barbie. The other Barbies are like, oh, this is the possibility of our future. Oh, she's like, it's so weird.
Put a pin in that.
Yeah. Well, yes. My favorite part of the movie. So not only is Weird Barbie accepted as something, oh, this is wonderful, it's part of childhood, we played with this Barbie too hard, and now she's and Weird Barbie is not upset at how she is. Weird Barbie's like, yeah, you did. Weird Barbie is very accepting of herself, and she owns it, and she is beautiful, and she, you know, she is all those. She just looks a little bit differently because she's been played with too hard. Okay.
So what does that played with her too hard look like?
Oh my goodness! You're cutting off her hair. You're throwing out the rules of how you play with dolls, where you should comb their hair, the right outfits. Barbie's wearing now I think her shoes are G.I. Joe boots. I might be wrong, but I think they're boots, and they're drawing on her, you know, this version of what makeup should be like. She's got circles around her eyes, you know,
and she stands frequently on one leg.
They're experimenting with they're actually playing with her, not obeying rules about how we hold or treat dolls.
So how much more do we think you would learn from playing too hard with a weird Barbie than from playing with a Barbie that you kept in pristine condition?
See,
because once you throw the rules out,
yeah,
of how you do something, you throw the rules out, you open up the possibilities for it to become anything.
Yeah.
And I think it was in playing too hard with weird Barbie, those children that had played too hard with her opened up the possibility for what could be. Because all of a sudden they had a Barbie that could bend in 500 different directions, do the splits in the most incredibly unnatural way on the face of this earth, wear whatever they wanted, have whatever makeup on they wanted, be whatever they wanted. And that came about because they threw the rules of play out the window and created something that was actually created something that exceeded what the creator thought it would be. Because the creator never ever set out to create weird Barbie. They set out to create a series of beautiful Barbies. It was children that came along and threw the rule book out the window. And
I love that.
And from throwing the rule book out the window, we ended up with weird Barbie that I think was the best Barbie of the lot, if I'm honest. I loved weird Barbie.
Everyone does.
Superb.
Yeah, and I do live in a tension where you know, we have a family who, you know, the kids love their collectibles, who, you know, we keep it in the box, we don't take it out, we don't play with it, and we've all seen those movies and where that goes. Barbie has to go to the real world because this feeling is not good, and it's going to, everyone's going to be able to see, and she's going to feel this sense of unease with herself. It could potentially be disastrous. The real world is instantly quite jarring to Barbie, but she doesn't have language to describe it. So she talks about how she, you know, well, we see her being laughed at immediately, and oh my goodness, that's one of the worst things for us as humans, isn't it?
Do you know what I loved? As she drove into town and there was this big billboard up with this group of men.
Yes.
No, group of women, and it was the Miss America type. Do you know what I mean? Or
it was Miss the pageant girls,
the pageant. That's the phrase, the pageant girls. And she looked at it and she said, "Oh, look, they're Supreme Court."
Right. Obviously.
Because that's Barbie's world. Barbie's world
right.
is, there's your most incredible women. They're clearly your Supreme Court. No, they're not. They're the pageant girls.
And we're like, oh, she's so naive because that's not how they look. Because you can't look like a Supreme Court judge and have, you know, possibly wear a bikini ever in your entire life and be young and, you know, stereotypical. Barbie is immediately harassed. She is trying to, she doesn't even have the words to describe self-consciousness. Oh, one of those first things that kids learn to experience. She also experiences, you know, violence. Someone touches her for the first time without consent.
Yes.
And so immediately she's there for a matter of what, less than a couple of minutes, and she's sexually assaulted.
Yeah, and she's like, what was that? What on earth was that?
Yeah, so it's, and you know, she's looking for in places, she's looking for empowerment. And in a building site, a building, that's a place where I should go get some, you know, female empowerment.
Yeah.
And Barbie.
That's not what happens.
Barbie.
Because there were no other Barbies there to comfort her. And and there's something in that, isn't there? Barbie looked for a place to find other Barbies to comfort her, and there were none of them there. And the reason they weren't there is because Barbie had stepped off the path that had been laid out for her life.
Yes.
And so in stepping away from the path laid out for her life, there's no one here to comfort you, is there? Look what you've done to yourself. You set yourself right outside the comfort zone, haven't you?
But something wonderful then will go on to happen. And I love that you can clearly see the dynamic between Ken and Barbie is more like a brother-sister relationship. I mean, we can see that very clearly, that dynamic. But as Ken is embarking on his voyage of discovery of the patriarchy, which is just speaking to all of his insecurities, we then have Barbie who... Now, I would call it prayer, meditation. She takes some time and she sits and she feels, look really within herself, but also being aware of looking at the trees, just experiencing in that moment, looking at people who are laughing together, people who are in pain. She is connecting with something deep within herself. Glennon Doyle, people who the woman who wrote Women Who Run with Wolves describes it as this deep knowing. And when she opens her eyes, she's experienced emotion. She's cried, but it hurts, but it doesn't, it's not something that's it's painful, but it's a acceptable pain.
Yeah.
And she looks, and in this opening up of, just being conscious of where she is, and conscious rather than self-conscious, being conscious of her, she sees this woman at the bus stop. This is my favorite moment in the movie. Now, apparently they wanted to take, the filmmakers wanted to take this scene out, but the director was adamant, this is the scene of the movie. And she's right. And she turns to this older woman who, she doesn't look like stereotypical Barbie. She doesn't look like any of the Barbies.
No.
But Barbie immediately, and not patronizingly, not sort of in that way that some of us do it, just because we want to just lift someone. She turns and sees the beauty. She turns and tells her, "You're beautiful." And the woman responds, and again, this way that we talked about earlier, "I know it." The two of them smile and laugh, and it is, it lifts my soul. Now, those two women, so Barbie has, I think this is the first lesson in how to not overlook people. This person who's right beside you and you can see them. And we're not talking, we're talking about physical beauty. Yeah, we're talking about, what's deep within, but Barbie can see this, and it is accepted rather than pushed away. And these two women in real life are both Oscar winners. The older woman is an Oscar winning costume designer. She does incredible work, and you've got Margot Robbie, the Oscar winning actress. And it's this moment between these women at, high level in their careers, at different stages of life and experience. And it just brought the whole movie for me.
I think, and being able to say you're beautiful when you're looking at somebody completely different age group, completely different, it's quite powerful, isn't it? And then she goes into the building, doesn't she? And that's where it's all interesting, isn't it? Interesting.
So then Barbie's going to experience rejection for the first time. She's going to reach out thinking, well, why would someone not want to be Barbie's friend? Because, Barbie's there for her. She's been tried to be this role model, and well, she's done her job, but she was rejected, and it hurt. Where do we want to go? Where do we want to go next? Because then we have while we have this sort of crazy journey of discovery in the real world, I think we need to talk about the board game.
We can. Let's just hold that for 1 second.
Sure.
Because I just want to pick up this comment in Carby, and I'm sorry if I've pronounced your name wrong. Hi, I haven't seen the movie. Finding your comments interesting. My TBM ex-hubs was furious if I ever mentioned I'd done something well. Get over yourself.
Yeah.
Now, isn't that interesting?
Oh, yes.
Because that's just what we've been talking about. How do women get to be confident, assertive, and feel the right to praise themselves and to say, I deserve that? When you've got people around saying, well, you shouldn't, but what do you mean you've done it well? No, of course you haven't done that well. Get over yourself. It wasn't you, it's somebody else that did it. Couldn't possibly be you. How could you have done that? No, not you. Someone else did that. You know, and
you misunderstood. You didn't even do it well in the first place. Well, I didn't understand what you were going for there. So let me help tell you how to do it better, because clearly I'm in a position to educate and inform you.
Absolutely. And
it's the arrogance of
it. It is the arrogance. That's all right. Come in, Phoebe.
That you get to pass judgment on someone else's. Not even just their achievements, not even just their achievements, but even the very thoughts that led to those achievements. Oh, what are we doing?
Well, what we're doing is you're going to have to talk for a second, because I need to go and get my laptop charger. So you talk while I get my laptop charger.
Run, Sarah. Run like the wind. Watch her go like a whippet. So, yeah, we have real life happening here in 21st Century Saints. In the meantime, thank you so much for everyone who's been just so supportive, and all of the lovely donations we get. We do appreciate it, and we put it into very, very good use. While we're about to continue in just a moment, but I just wanted to also let people know who were attending the Worldwide Workshop a few days ago. We are going to put it online. So just hold your horses, because we are going to get there, because the content was just the speakers that we had were just really, really powerful. So we've got Sara back with us. Okay. See, look at that professional stall for time.
No. Okay, I just said this is what happens when I'm set up in one room, the internet signal dies, and then just as we're about to go live, with 30 seconds to go live, I have to run into another room to pick an internet signal up, then realise I haven't got my laptop charger with me, and have to leave you to talk for 2 minutes while I run and fetch it.
Welcome
but
to
I'm back.
Instead of Barbie land, it's 21st Century Saints land, where things like this happen. Welcome to the real world.
I do have an announcement to make. I have an announcement to make. Okay. In the time I was rushing across the kitchen to go and get my laptop, Phoebe met me halfway across the kitchen floor and said that she has just ordered a t-shirt.
Woo-hoo!
So isn't that cool?
Isn't that cool? They're so fancy.
Well, we said the other day that she was in our gang, so there you go.
Yeah, well, absolutely, and we have a range of t-shirts.
Right.
Also. So
okay, we do. So let's back. But anyway, did you just discussing this whole bit about why do women end up accepting on some level that it's okay for men to say, why are you praising yourself? And she makes another.
And typically Sarah's
they possibly can.
No. Okay, we've got you.
Made available to them. Mm-hmm. Okay, so and also then Carby goes on to make another point about the hundreds of hours that women volunteer, and not just women, men, people volunteer generally, doing the very, very best they can, often getting zero thanks, little recognition, and little acceptance that what they've done was kind of worth doing in the first place, really. And that's really, and then we wonder why we end up with a generation of women where self-esteem, confidence, and self-belief is out the window.
I mean, I almost expect it to come from men, because, and I don't know why. Maybe it is just pure and utter bog standard patriarchy. But you see, when it comes from other women, there is something that just hurts my soul to see it. And let's face it, we've all been it. We've all done that. We've been that person.
Well, yeah, 100%.
But we try to leave that behind, right? We try to be a higher version of ourselves, and not. But oh my goodness, when as women we're exercising that soft power in a way that it's so depressing.
I think what I struggle with is when, as a woman, you're exercising that soft power and you're deliberately know that to get the very results you need to get and achieve, you actually have to exercise soft power.
Yeah.
Because anything other than soft power is too hard for men to handle. And it's too hard for our church authorities to handle, to be quite blunt and brutal about it. It's too hard for them. Their fragile egos can't cope. So you have to use soft power. But then it's using that very, very soft power that often attracts criticism. Like, what are you doing that for?
Yeah.
Oh, you're too Mormon, you are. You're being too soft. What are you being like that for? Thinking, hang on a minute. It's a deliberate, it's a plan, it's a pattern. We know exactly what we're doing and we know exactly why.
Now,
but men do not use that soft power. Men don't. They don't feel the need to sit around and use soft power. Not in the way women do. So why do women do it?
I think because there are times when that soft power looks like oh my goodness, is Phoebe okay? When we said you were getting the real world tonight, you really did get it. This is wonderful, but do you know what? Sarah's going to be fed like a queen tonight. Phoebe's clearly making something delicious in the kitchen. But yeah, that soft power, absolutely, we've had to use it. Sometimes we don't know when we're doing it. Sometimes we fall back into that pattern of, because we've developed these really, really bad habits. And, I've spoken to, I remember speaking to the Brit Vengers team, a while back after a particularly disappointing meeting. And I remember saying to them, I have no idea what happened to me, but I just turned into, someone else completely. I can be assertive here. I can say all of these things. I'm prepared for it. And then I'm in this situation and I just where did my spine go? And what was interesting to me is they were saying, well, actually, you know what? You're being human, because we've all done that too. But in time, you do get to the point where you leave that behind. But we've been taught.
It's conditioning. That's
conditioning.
Yeah. And you see, and that's the big difference between the Barbies in the Barbie land, in Barbie world. They were conditioned to success. They were conditioned to be their own people.
Yeah.
But as soon as she entered the real world, it was, what do I do with this? And that kind of, she didn't have the skills to know what to do with it. She learned it very quickly. But it was, how do I do that?
Yeah, can I come back to the soft power thing again? So I'm thinking about the times when we have used it, because we've spoken before on the show, because we don't have to use, what's the saying, use a hammer to crack a nut. There's being just polite and nice and treating people, taking what they're saying at face value, believing that someone's intentions are good. So we don't need to go in full battle mode.
Jane, I remember, just 1 second. I remember once at work when I was feeling particularly frustrated with somebody who didn't seem to think they needed to come to work and do their job. And I was talking to my manager and I said, I'm going to have a word. And she said to me, that's a good plan. She said, but just remember, she said, you collect more honey you get more bees with honey than you do vinegar.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why the soft power is important, because you get more bees with honey than you do with vinegar.
A soft word turneth away wrath, and we can build relationships using that soft power and diplomacy, but equally I think what a lot of people then maybe don't realize is they make assumptions or judgments about where you are based on your tone. So they're looking to read your tone. They're looking to read how you're coming across. If you're in that space of diplomacy, well, then I can work with you. You're not going to cause me any problems. We're being diplomatic, and you're safe enough.
Tone, please.
Just as many times though, we have had, and we are incredibly direct, and we have used language, and we have, we've gone toe to toe in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
But
can I say, people don't see those.
But those you don't,
they have been behind closed doors when it's been us.
Yeah.
And whoever we're having that difficult conversation with, and people don't see that.
Yeah, so people, sort of, I would say,
and we don't repeat and play it out in public.
Yeah, so
when it's been like that.
I mean, sometimes we do. If I'm in a bad mood, I might just tell you exactly what's going on. I mean, it's really, we do confidentiality, but I don't need to hide anyone's bad behaviour, including my own. If it comes
absolutely,
to it.
absolutely.
I will learn and grow, and so that soft power, I think, the thing that keeps, especially women are very good at using to keep other women in their place. The authority of the Relief Society president, or the approving comments from the other women that tell you that what you're doing right now is acceptable. Let me just help you with that, sister. Thank you, sister, for bringing that to our attention. So we also have to be able to, although we're saying don't read too much into it when we do it, let's read something into it when everybody else does it to me. Told you this was therapy night.
Yeah, but it's all about me.
It is all about me, and that is going to be the new t-shirt. It's all about me. So now we go from there into, oh my goodness, Mormon Central is the boardroom scene. Now I took my youngest to this, and my kid sees this scene, and while I am thinking, oh, you know what's happening right now? This is the interview that happened when we had the new first presidency, when they were announced and revealed to the world, and Peggy Fletcher Stack in that press conference said, but what about the women? So she asked a question about women's roles. They gave a non-answer, and she did not let them off the hook. And she said, but what about the women? And it was glorious.
Yeah.
What then follows, and I really wish we could share a clip of this, but we don't have it. So yeah, watch the movie or read a synopsis. But what happens next is Will Ferrell, in his wonderful way, almost repeats that whole thing that happened. So Barbie asks a question, a reasonable question, that is not, accusatory or loaded. She just asks, where are the women? That's it.
Can I meet the woman in charge before I go? And he's like,
So the boardroom is all men.
But did you notice all the way through the boardroom it was all men? The box for Barbie stayed in the corner of the room.
It was there.
It was there. It was never gone away. Right, just in case a brazen upstart of a woman walked in the room and tried to threaten their power base.
Okay.
And tried to threaten their power base. Well, we've got a box, and we'll shove her right back in that box if she starts.
Yeah. So pretty much Barbie has asked, well, where are the leader? Where are the women? So we had a woman here once who was a CEO. What about the CFO? What about the CEO? And then he immediately, Will Ferrell, in his role as the chair of Mattel, is saying, I don't like what you're insinuating. Now, she hasn't insinuated anything, but he immediately goes on the defensive, and he is not pleased, and he lets her know. And he makes it very clear that he has a mother. He says he is the son of a mother. He is the mother of a son.
He's the mother.
He is the nephew.
He is the son of a mother, and you're like,
and ends up with, I have Jewish friends, and it's just this like oh my goodness, we have all seen this play out in real life because women can't complain, but then at the very end, because now Barbie's going to happily go back in the box because Mattel have told her the way to fix your problems, the way to get everything back to normal, which is what you want, what we want. If you would you mind just getting back in this box? And Barbie's like, well, okay.
Jane, liken that to women at church.
Right.
How does that fit for women at church?
I need a clear space.
There's your box, get back in it.
Right.
That's your space. Pat on the head. You've got all these wonderful characteristics of carrying children, giving birth, being nurturing. You've got all these fantastic characteristics. You don't need the power and authority we've got.
How many talks from women about how wonderful the box is? That this box is wonderful. Barbie talks about how she likes the smell. It reminds her.
And you don't need to leave the box, do you? It's just beautiful. Right. It's wonderful.
But then Will Ferrell, as she's on the way to the box, has just asked a simple question, and he ends with, "Get in the box, you Jezebel." It's like, whoa, we now have a slur. We now have women, because we know the connotations if we're adults of what that word actually means.
And listen, that you're not in your box, you're not in the place you're supposed to be, so therefore you can't possibly be a good virtuous woman. You've got to be a bad woman in some way because you're not in the box where you're meant to be.
Right. We like the box. There are women all over the world and men all over the world who've been taking photographs and selfies this summer in the box.
I have box photos of me stepping out of the box, breaking out of the box. As Freya said to me, she said, "Nan, you nearly broke the box then." She said, when you pushed it, it nearly fell over.
I bet it did. That's my girl.
I went like that, and the box moved, the entire box shuttered.
She moves our world.
And Freya was like, "Nan." I'm like, oh.
Guys, that is my queen.
I didn't.
Tell me about if you were to relate it to Richard Rohr and those stages, first half of life, second half of life. Barbie liked that box. Barbie was going to go into that box, and at the last minute, she has this sort of panic where nope, there's something wrong. She
suddenly realised, didn't she, that if she went back in that box, she could never fulfil her potential. She could never be who she wanted to be. Once she was in that box, she was going to be confined. There's the wall, and that was it. And her hands were going to be tied and strapped behind her. She was never going to hold her own authority again. And one of the things that Richard Rohr said that I love very, very much was he said about the importance as we move from the sort of first part of our life to the second part of our life, we start to recognise that our own inner authority is so much more important for personal growth and for building relationships with the divine and for all aspects of personal growth and relationships with divinity than is listening to an external authority that says you should, you can't, you must. Yeah. And I think for Barbie, there was that sudden what being in the box meant. She didn't, up until then, she just had some happy, good memories of what this box meant. It was like, oh, the box is all right, the box is comfortable, the box is nice. I like the box.
It's safe.
I like the box. But then all of a sudden, and actually, sometimes you see that actually I like being in the bubble of Mormonism. It's quite safe here. I'll stay. It's okay.
The box does a job. If you are being picked up and thrown around and, like chucked in with the Christmas presents, other boxes are bumping up against you, you are not going to get hurt in that box.
That's right. But what Barbie recognised in that instant was if I'm in that box, then all the other things that we had in Barbie world, all the other things that we're doing as Barbies, we can't do them if we're in boxes. So the box no longer works. It's like the box served a purpose to protect, to care, to carry Barbie around safely for a period of Barbie's life. The box worked. It was shelter, it was sanctuary, it worked. Then Barbie developed an understanding of the world for herself, and the box no longer served a purpose. And it was like, I've got to get out of this box. And then there were all these authoritarian men saying, oh, no, you're not, because that's a problem for us, you brazen hussy. If you're running around outside your box, you get back in it. And at that moment, she took a phenomenal bid for freedom, which was just glorious.
And it's reminiscent of Eve leaving the garden, of it being safe, of it being wonderful. I mean, Barbie doesn't want to actually leave Barbie land. Barbie wants to be back in Barbie land. She wants to be safe. She wants to be comfortable. But the box cannot be the method by which she does that anymore. And Richard Rohr, as you're talking about those stages of life, one of the things that he talks about when you're in the second stage of life, one of the indicators of that is, if you think you are, but you're looking back at all of the people who are finding comfort and safety in the box, that isn't a second half of life sort of attitude. You should all be where I am. That kind of would maybe suggest that you're not quite there yet, because everybody doesn't, the box fulfills a job. It's doing something. There is a safety there. And so but she can't stay there forever. She can't live in that box. Going back to Barbie Land, seeing what the patriarchy looks like is it's funny, but it's so tragic because the Kens aren't happy. The patriarchy doesn't help anyone.
Well, what was that quote? Barbie changed everything and then she changed it again.
Yes.
Didn't she? Yes. Barbie changed it. And what does Ken say at this point? It's kind of, does he say this when they've gone back to Barbie Land? I'm a man with no power. Does that make me a woman?
Oh, remember that.
And I'm trying to remember. I can't remember exactly when he said that, but I just remember
the film. Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. I'm a man with no power. Does that make me a woman?
Well, let me take this moment to introduce the other character who people haven't known quite as much about what to do with. Alan, who was introduced as a friend of Ken, but he's sort of there in Barbie Land, and he seems to have not very much of a point. He seems to be quite, I guess, maybe sort of gender or sexually sort of ambiguous. He's just doesn't really do anything. And because he doesn't fulfill a sort of stereotypical male purpose, he doesn't have one of those assigned jobs other than to be Alan. We don't really know what to do with men like that, and they don't have quite so much of a clear function in the patriarchy, and he's quite distressed by how this is looking. He needs to get out of there. This society doesn't know what to do with Alans, and I just find that really interesting. He is part of the sort of resistance, the Barbie resistance, of how we're going to help all of these Barbies who have been brainwashed by the patriarchy, in the same way as Barbie had no skills she hadn't developed any resilience to what she was going to experience in the real world. She hasn't experienced how we cope with anxiety or the self-consciousness or any of those things that we develop those resilient skills ideally through childhood and develop them in adulthood, and things sort of surface. Barbie doesn't have those skills. So all of the other Barbies have been completely brainwashed by the patriarchy, and they don't see it.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, kind of sneaks up on you, doesn't it? Because no one thinks, oh yeah, here is me in a box, a victim of the patriarchy, and everyone seems quite happy when there is a role or a job to be fulfilled. For those Barbies, it is to fulfill a role in the life of a Ken, right? They have jobs to do to make him feel good. But yeah, so then there's this moment where Barbie comes back, and now this is the Barbie I think so many of us. We've got weird Barbie, but the other most relatable Barbie is the one who, what is it? Depression Barbie. So she sees that Ken has taken over her house. The patriarchy's in full swing, and it's horrible. Ken has thrown all her wonderful clothes out, and she just sits on the ground.
Yeah.
and wishes for a more resilient Barbie, so a more leadership orientated Barbie to come and fix things. And she's just ready to be done.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
But you know, again, that's
I relate.
I was going to say that is such a realistic point, isn't it? In all our lives, we just sit there and think, "I'm done." I'm done.
Do you remember what brings her back? Can you recall?
Was it the moment when Gloria came past who played too hard with the word Barbie, and then that real speech that Gloria gives her when Gloria is pointing out the cognitive dissonance that is going on for these Barbies, and she's coming up with this. This is what they've told you. This is how they got you to do this. And she's really highlighting the cognitive dissonance and what's going on for them. And slowly these Barbies wake up out of this sleep and they're like, we've got to go reclaim our Barbie land.
So she's in Weird Barbie's house with the other sort of weirdish Barbies who, you know, we've got the growing up Barbie who's, you know, we could see her boobs. That was a real Barbie, people, if you didn't know. Her boobs grew. The Barbie with the TV in the back, you know, Barbies who didn't all feel like, you know, that their purpose was so wonderful after all. We had other people who were those fringy, I don't fit in people. And finally, Barbie gets to hear something real and truthful that is hurtful. And when Barbie hears this, it's awful. It's really, really horrible for her. And so she talks about how she says that she's just not pretty enough. She's not good enough. She's never going to be all of these things. And, you know, she's really, really depressed. And to give that voice. And so we have this mother who talks about how just even the idea of her, all of these things that she represents, and if she feels like this as the idea of a woman, then what does that mean? And it's just this beautiful moment where everyone feels like, yes, do you see what womanhood is not respected? While we have in the background, we have a trans actress, we have all of these sort of fringy, not good enough, not, you know, why were you even created? Why would anyone need a Barbie with a TV in the back? You know, what is that? That's a mistake.
And the whole message is Skipper, like, well, what's your purpose, Skipper? What do we want you for?
Right. All of these superfluous people who hear that and who realize, you know, who are told, well, what does that mean then? And it's empowering.
Place for you. Yeah.
Because to share it, to find a language and to share it, to talk about it, and that's what we hope to do with spaces like this. Just to say it, just to hear it, just to feel like you're not going crazy.
It's that reminder, isn't it, that strength and resilience comes from that kind of being able to support and that unity and being able to hold space for each other. And that builds that strength and that resilience that people need. And before you got to that point, you had sort of things happening, like all the Kens going into battle with the Barbies, and then Alan's like, what is it we're fighting for? All geared up, ready to go.
That's the next scene. Yes.
Crunched together, ready to go. Like, hey, we're going into war here. We're going to go and crush these Barbies. We're going to keep hold of this. And this one, he looked and goes, well, what are we fighting for? What are we here for? Because he's just gone with the crowd, followed the herd, that had no clear idea, ready to go into battle and die, and no idea what he was doing there or why.
It's quite sweet that you see all of these little glimpses with the Kens of, rather than fighting amongst each other, you get these little glimpses of what, you know, fraternity could look like, of what, if you all stop being so defensive about what the Barbies were, you know, thinking, and you actually got over yourselves in that kind of way, that they held hands. they were kind of united in support for each other, which is what came really naturally to the Barbies. But eventually we have, because Barbie has a talk with Ken where he's still really wrestling, still really struggling with these ideas of not being complete without Barbie. He finally sees a glimpse of what that could look like, and he realizes that he is Kenough. He has a hoodie.
That I love. I love that he's Kenough.
Ken. Oh, Ken.
I
Yes,
love that he's Kenough, because isn't that the only moment in which we actually can truly grow, is that moment when we realise we are enough. And that's why I love that little bit that kind of comes very much towards the end of the movie, but actually made sense of the entire movie for me, when Barbie's talking to her creator, and her creator is saying, it's up to you. I might have created you, but I didn't get to decide how you turn out and what you do with your life. I made you, but it's up to you. And that's
so before we're at the end of the movie, powerful. Another bit that you had spoken to me about that had really touched you, we were talking about, so Ken finally gets to feel Kenough, and he's had some pretty good tunes that we've been singing along with in our house this summer. Sarcastically, boys who've been singing them unironically on YouTube, just I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, what I was going to say, it doesn't matter what I do, I'm always number two.
Oh, his song "I Wanna Push You Around" is, I mean, it's yes, just whatever. It's funny. It's a funny song. But we get this bit at the end, where after all of the Kens have their realization moment, things are going to change for the Kens. The Barbies are also now realizing that they overlooked people in their society. They didn't even know where the Kens lived, right? Weird Barbie.
Isn't that powerful? Isn't that powerful? We don't even know enough. We don't even cared about you enough to find out the basics of your life.
Weird Barbie now has a role within mainstream society, and the part that my 17-year-old son was just in stitches at last night was when the Kens asked if they could have representation in the Supreme Court, which the president laughed and said that's not going to happen, but we might be able to get you a circuit judge role possibly. And the narrator tells us that, one day the Kens might have as much power in Barbie land as women have in the real world today. And oh, how my son laughed. And I love that he saw that, how funny it was. But so there's this moment where the Kens are having, this is going to change things for them. Progression is going to happen. What about the CEO? He feels like he is the creator. He represents.
Well, he thinks he is, doesn't he? And that's the interesting bit. He thinks he's the creator, and he thinks he's the person who's going to solve it all and pull it all back. And he's the really important one who's going to make everything. He's going to sort all this mess out.
And he says to President Barbie, "You can call me mother."
Yes.
And she says, "I'm not going to do that," and because he sees himself in that he can be the mother, the father.
Yeah, but Barbie's like, no.
Right. Because that's how bloody stupid it is. Yes. Wasn't
he wearing a frilly apron at one point, or did I imagine that?
I don't think so, but
no,
I think I know where that came from, and I'll tell you about it later, because I don't want to be mean to anyone.
Okay. Oh, all right then.
Shall I? Oh, stuff it.
Oh no,
Have I just said
something I shouldn't have said? Have I said something I shouldn't have said?
I just don't, because I've been a bit grumpy this week, so
we've had a grumpy week though, haven't we? Really,
you know what it is and again, I might also be wrong, but so the CEO at this point, who's trying to be, sees himself in this mother creator, understands all the rules of the land, he knows how it all works. The prophet role, the patriarch
that's totally the role he's put himself in.
And that moment where
I'll get you all back safely, I'll make everything safe, you just have to follow me, do as I tell you, and it'll all be safe and okay.
And do you remember back during COVID when our dear beloved prophet Russell M. Nelson, happy birthday to you from last Saturday, congratulations on your 99th birthday, Do you remember during COVID and there was the photograph of him helping out doing household chores where he's holding a vacuum cleaner?
Oh, he's got
so
a frilly vacuum.
When you said the frilly apron, that's what it reminded me of.
Maybe that was the image in my head. I'd related this CEO so much to Russell M. Nelson.
Well, because everything he said was so warming.
The frilly apron just got enmeshed somewhere.
Yeah, that look, I can be... you know, like when you come into a sacred women's space and you get to be the final speaker and the ultimate authority. I am mother, and no.
Don't you love how pretty much one of the only places in our society that we call a women's meeting is presided over by men, and there's as many women speakers as men speakers, but we call it a women's meeting. I don't understand I don't get why it's a women's meeting when the men preside and there's as many men and women speakers. And that's an aside, but that CEO, that was the role he was playing. Almost like this, I can make that sensible to you. I can actually make sure that you meant to do some gymnastics and you understand that.
Watch this conference to underline the point that Sara is making. Spoiler alert again. Anyway, he was also a victim of this too, because all he wanted was, you know, to be able to go on a corporate retreat and have a tickle fight. They just want to play. Doesn't
he didn't want to do any work. He didn't want to do any real work either, did he?
Oh, but that aside, he just wanted to tackle. I mean,
but he didn't want to do any real work, did he?
So and that was what, you know, that's so bizarre about it. You have the authority to not. You could have just, you know, just dial it in, to organise a corporate retreat, have a tickle fight. Well, you could.
Yeah, he could have done. If he wanted his tickle fight, he could have had his tickle fight. I mean, nobody else seemed to want to join in with his tickle fight. But
he hasn't felt, for whatever reason, that he can do that either. So now we get to the point in the movie where the real creator, we get to sort of, we've seen her a little bit earlier on.
We've seen a couple of scenes. There's been a couple of scenes with her having a cup of tea with her, which I thought was incredible. Barbie's in full flow from the patriarchy that are trying to grab her and put her in a box, and then she comes across this little old woman, has a cup of tea with her, and then she's off again. It's like a surreal moment. That it's almost surreal, wasn't it?
We're told that the creator of Barbie keeps an office on the 13th floor of Mattel.
Oh yes, we're told on Mattel.
There you go. She keeps her own office there. But yes, she has a chat with Barbie, and what is wonderful about the creator is that she sees herself. She sort of jokingly refers to her tax evasion issues, having had a double mastectomy. She sees
she's
herself.
Far from perfect, and she's kind of like, you know what? Everything in my life that is been pretty dire.
Right, and so Barbie learns that she was named after her daughter.
Yeah, Barbara.
That she wasn't, you know, someone who you could really put in a box either. So tell me, I know you've talked a little bit about the creator moments. Tell me what your thoughts were of that final scene that has had children crying in the cinema because they haven't had this experience before.
Right. Well, okay, I might not get that bit quite. I might not quite get what you wanted to get at there. You might need to pick up on that again. But what we've got is this scene where Barbie, you know, we've got a male god in Mormonism that tells us women what we need to be doing. So kind of, you know, the pathway is a male god, and he can tell us women, you know, has all the kind of direction information that us women need. In Barbie, you've got the creator who's a female, who's saying to her kind of daughter that's not her daughter because she's Barbie, but she's Barbara, who's saying to her, I've created you, but I didn't create you to be what I wanted you to be. I created you to be anything you want to be. and I created you to find your way of being whatever it is you want to be. And so you've got this sense that you've got almost this polar opposite almost, because you've got in Mormonism a very male divinity leading and directing even the females, because we don't have access to our own female divine. So you've got that happening with the path laid out for women, with an end, but this is what the path is, this is what you need to be, this is how you need to be, and this is how you achieve what I created you to be. And then you've got the complete opposite with this female creator that is saying to her daughter, not daughter, I created you, but I didn't create you with my purpose in mind, with my intention in mind. I created you to be whatever you want to be. Hello, Harry.
How are you?
The world says hello, Harry.
Well, we're just
we love you, Harry.
We're on a live podcast here, Harry. If you want to come and say hello.
The whole YouTube loves you, Harry. Can you do me a favour, Sarah? And what you said, I'm going to ask you to say again through a particular lens. So when you think about the sort of male creator, women in Mormonism, as well as men, imagine everyone being able to have this experience that you get to have a patriarch when you get your patriarchal blessing, particularly, but any other blessing that's given through the voice and the lens of a man. And he tells you in that patriarchal blessing exactly how your life is patterned to be and what the Lord has in mind for you. All of those things about the special things about you, and it comes through his voice. Can you imagine a mother in heaven's blessing, a matriarchal blessing? If you were to, can you tell us again, if you give us the sense of what the creator was saying, and let's imagine for a second that was what a patriarchal blessing could sound like, that if it was a matriarchal blessing?
What the creator was saying, she was just saying, do you know what, Barbara? I didn't invent you. I didn't create you to be what I had in mind. I created you to be your own person, to find your own way, to work out what matters to you, what you want to be. I created you to be who you are, not who I want you to be. Which is a completely different message, isn't it? What did you say? Like, it was... Barbie could find her own purpose. And actually, part of Barbie's purpose could be to reject all the social norms around her. But the gift the female creator gave to Barbie was, you can reject all the social norms around you. You can reject the stereotypes. You can kick the box to the other end of the room so it smashes into pieces. And you can walk the path you want to walk, because I might have created you, but I started you. I don't get to finish you.
Oh, can you imagine if hands were placed on heads in the church and that was the blessing that was given? Wouldn't that be
amazing? Wouldn't that be amazing? I would love that.
So we go from there to, we see Barbie making an active choice. Interestingly, she has something that we don't get within Mormonism, or we aren't taught that we have within Mormonism, which is the full disclosure. You're going to experience the world, you're going to experience living in it, and here is what it will feel like. Here's a glimpse of the pain, here's a glimpse of all the heartbreak, and you can choose. And there is no judgment about what she's going to choose. Either way, she has the power to make that choice, and so she chooses.
But she also had the memory of both worlds with her when she went forth and chose.
Yes.
She wasn't choosing. She wasn't choosing blind, and she wasn't choosing with no information.
It is informed consent.
And that is the biggest difference of all, isn't it? That's the difference.
And we see this glamorizing of leaps of faith, and not that isn't something that there are times in life when people have to do, but I mean, we don't always have to be taking leaps of faith. It isn't an unreasonable thing to expect to be told, full disclosure, here is what you can expect. And then if it, if that isn't delivered upon, then,
At the point at which Barbie turns around and says to her creator, I want to be fully human.
Yeah.
Barbie knew what she was asking.
Barbie knew what she was asking.
There was
and there is this moment where it has this temple moment for me where Barbie just closes her eyes and says yes, and in doing that she's accepting, but she has all of the knowledge that she needs to make the decision about what's going to come next, knowing that a lot of it is unknowable, but that she knows things will change, and she knows that things are going to be hard. She knows what she's going to experience.
But she knew enough to make an informed consent decision.
And that's what it is. Exactly.
It wasn't you don't need to know, just do it.
So I have this theory, and I suppose this would be sort of, as we're at the end of the film, I was talking to, because my kid is trans, and there's a lot of things that I'll sort of see through trying to understand from as a cisgender woman, what kind of things you might bump up against. Anyway, and it was through that lens that I couldn't help but think about these last scenes in the film, where Barbie is now in the real world and she has made an appointment, and the closing line is, I am here to see my gynecologist. Now, earlier on in the film, Barbie has made it clear that she does not have genitals. Ken's like,
I've got all the genitals.
Oh, he immediately and that there is a masculation issue there. Yes. So, but Barbie doesn't, and so while it's entirely possible, it's not spelled out, that when Barbie has said yes, suddenly some twinkling change comes over her body, and that she suddenly has genitals, and she's going to have that experience. Although it would be, I think, turning up at the gynecologist for the first time is everyone's idea of terror, not excitement.
But what struck me was a huge big grin on her face. Barbie's there, excited,
right?
Happy. I'm here to see my gynecologist. Whereas other women don't want gynecologist. We never want to see a gynecologist.
Other cisgender women, we tend to feel that way, but Barbie's experience, to me, is, I would imagine, if she indeed continues the same, because everything else about her is the same, that she probably doesn't have genitals, and that she needs to speak to her gynecologist to discuss what that will look like. And so Barbie having those conversations medically would be around the idea of a sort of medical sort of transition, the excitement of a transgender woman to have that conversation with their gynecologist about, I can have affirming surgery that will help my body become more in line with I know that I am a woman, and this surgery will affirm that. Yes, and it's a choice. And her joy in that, and so
I think that's a lovely word. I hadn't thought through that scene enough to get that from it.
No, but maybe not. And nothing is spelled out.
It's spoken with your child, for them to be able to put that perspective on it. That's really. That's a really powerful message that's there in Barbie, isn't it?
Right. And so what does that say about affirming surgery? Do you need genitals to be considered a woman?
And what does
Barbie doesn't?
No, well, that's right. That's right. Because Barbie and Ken have got on with being who they are and what they are.
Right, exactly.
But until the time came when it was important for Barbie, for whatever reason, and whether that was important because she wanted it to affirm who she was, or whether Barbie's thinking, I think I'll see baby Barbie soon. Whatever, Barbie wanted to have the choice and the options and everything that went along with being a woman.
Yeah. Now, it's entirely possible that maybe Barbie is in a relationship, or Barbie is not in a relationship and wants to think about her fertility and the ability to have children.
Could be
And
anything.
those human things are very exciting. But yes, that was one of the places that my mind went, and I found that beautiful. I really did.
That's a lovely insight that you brought us to with that. I like that.
Sara, closing Barbie thoughts. Anything else that you wanted to share about your experience?
I think an overriding closing Barbie thought is that anything is possible if we let go of the constraints that other people impose upon us. And if we just say, that's your constraint do not apply to me, then anything is possible.
Absolutely.
We should not allow other people to choose our constraints for us.
Absolutely. Well, whether you are Ken or Barbie, or whether you are something in between or something altogether different, we hope you've enjoyed being with us tonight. Thank you so much for your time and being in the audience. Now, we have got homework for you. We are planning to watch a movie together, ideally online. We're going to arrange a watch party, but if you want to get the jump on this, we're going to have a conversation, and it will be at some point over the next few weeks. Watch out on our social media channels. We'll let you know what's going to happen around that. But we are going to be watching and live tweeting. We're going to have a watch party for Women Talking. Now, if you have seen it, if you're in the US, it's on streaming services there in the US. If you're in the UK, it is available for free now on Amazon Prime. It can be, so you can stream it if you have access to Amazon Prime Video. So we are really looking forward to watching that along with you and sharing some thoughts, and then we're going to do a show about it. So if there's anything you'd like us to bring up about that experience that you have, then just let us know. Just get in touch. Now, we've got tons of things that we're releasing over the next few weeks. We have got a very, very busy few weeks in the run up to Sunstone UK. Please don't forget, if you want to come to Sunstone UK, just go ahead. Just come onto Facebook, find the Sunstone UK page, and all the sign-up details are there. You'll get to hang out with the Brit Vengers. You'll get to find out what everyone's up to. We have some fantastic speakers, including Moroni Jessup. What else? We've got some good content coming up from Nemo the Mormon. There's lots going on there in the pipeline. And we have some plans. We're going to be getting up to something over the next couple of weeks too, and we're excited to let you know about. For those of you who didn't get to attend the worldwide training workshop, for those of you who tried to and for some reason couldn't access the link, which is a lot of you.
A lot of people, and I kept getting messages coming through all evening. I can't get the link. I can't find the link.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, guys. I did my best to get it out to you all, but we
were oversubscribed, so we did have some of those issues. But don't worry, because we did record it. Now, we have a few just edits to make because we wanted to keep the meeting confidential. But once we have that done, we will get that out, and we hope that you will be able to enjoy that. We'll make sure that if you did miss out, that you didn't really, because all of the content is there for you. If you need to reach us about anything at all, you can reach out across our social media channels as usual. We appreciate all of your support through donations, through super chats, all of these things. Thank you so much, and we will see you again same time next week. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.